Content systems.
Content system.
Content system. Content system.
Content
Sorry.
system.
Content systems.
Content system should hit multiple content systems. What actually is a content system? The $1 million question that I get asked, I reckon 5 to 10 times a day. And so I'm releasing it all here in this video because I think you guys you deserve to know. You deserve to know what a content system is, because I have not only done this for my own content, but I also help every single one of my clients implement this system, and they can actually implement it for their clients as well. And so this system is not only successful in bringing in clients, but it is repeatable. And when you have a repeatable content system that you can help your clients with, you're gonna make a whole lot more money. Because when something's repeatable, you have a scalable business on your hands. And so that is exactly what I want to share with you today, because I know all of you guys have been waiting for this one, and it has been a long time in the coming for this content systems video to be produced. So to be quite frank, I'm putting it all on the line because I am giving you the exact system that I use to predictably bring in clients for my own business, and that you guys can implement for not only yourself, but like I said, your clients as well. So without further ado, let's open up the laptop and get straight into it. Now, before I get into it, I need you guys to switch your mindset. And I've said this time and time again, but you need to stop thinking like a videographer. You need to stop thinking like you run an agency. You are a content systems consultant, and your main role is to help a business grow through content systems. And so that's the overview of this whole roadmap that I'm going to run you through today. The 5 steps that I'll run you through, everything encapsulates you being a content systems consultant. That's how you approach your clients. That's how you position yourself, and that's how you're gonna make a whole lot more money in the long run. So what does this actually look like? Well, we're building the fulfillment for yourself and for your clients. So we need to create some sort of repeatable success journey for your clients. Here's what we do, here's what it gets you. That's how you position yourself. We do X, you get Y. We create the system, you get leads. It's the exact same thing. We help you implement a lead generation system that brings in new leads every single day. That's what we're doing here. We're not saying we give you 8 reels and you might get some leads coming in the door, maybe. No, we help you implement a lead generation system that brings in new leads every single day. I didn't say a single thing about content. I didn't say a single thing about running an ad. A lead generation system, having some sort of unique mechanism there. That is super important, because when you have some sort of mechanism that you can use in your content system that separates you from everyone else, that's going to give you a lot more leverage. Okay, cool. Let's get straight into it. So what's the system actually look like? Well, once a client comes on board, or for your case, once you just start creating content for yourself, we want some sort of repeatable framework to take your business to the next level. So let's say we launch the system. We launch the system, a client comes on board, they pay us the money. They pay us our high ticket price that we presented them. They understand that everything we're offering is an absolute irresistible offer, and now they've paid us. They're on board. What's the next steps look like? Well, the first thing they do before we create any content, before we do anything for them, the first thing we do is we send them an intake form. Now, this is super important because we want to get as much data and feedback from this client as humanly possible. Because when we understand the reasons why they bought, what they did differently to consume our content, how they actually understood what we were doing and actually started to apply it to their business before they were working with us. All of these things are super important to understand. Their deepest fears, desires, hopes, and dreams. We need to get super clear on who they are as a person and why they bought from us. And so that's why they need to, this is a non-negotiable, they need to fill out our intake form. Now, once that's done, the system begins. They enter the 90-day content system. And now this is super important because there are 5 steps that are involved. Let me run you through these. So we first start off with the strategy, then the organic content call. Then number 3, we build the authority. Number 4, we actually test some ads. And number 5, we start closing the deals. And the deal should already start to be closed in, honestly, steps 1 and 2. But step 5 is when that system can just start repeatedly occurring over and over. So everyone starts at step 1, the strategy call. What's this look like? The strategy call just starts with defining your ICP, optimizing your Instagram profile, creating a unique content angle, and following a client roadmap. So you might be sitting there thinking, okay, this is completely unfamiliar. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Jack. Well, number 1 is to define your ideal customer profile, your ideal client profile. So when you're working with your client, what's this actually look like? Well, you need to understand exactly who they are targeting, because without that, how are you supposed to actually work with them on their content and their messaging? How are you supposed to actually push through the market and stand them out as a category of one in their industry? You can't. You simply can't, because you don't know who they're actually targeting. And so you're just posting random reels hoping they get some traction. It doesn't actually make a lot of sense. So we need to get super clear on defining an ICP. Honestly, the strategy call is all about just mapping out the client's journey and understanding who they're trying to target and what they actually want in the next 3-4 weeks as an outcome. Now, we want to make sure their Instagram profile is optimized. Right now, they've probably got a bunch of random posts. They don't even know what they've tried to do with a strategy in the past. Right now, their profile picture just looks absolutely cooked. It's a mess. To be quite frank, their profile is a mess. And that's how we're going to start generating leads, because their profile will be the way that we can actually bring in and generate leads for their business. Don't forget about everything else. Everything runs through their profile. So make sure there is extreme optimization with their profile. Make sure their bio is optimized, their story highlights, their posts, their pin posts, their profile picture, their actual name that they're running. Make sure they have a username that doesn't have numbers, underscores, all that sort of stuff. The basic shit, but this is super important. Ultimately, the main part of optimizing their Instagram profile, though, is going to be their bio. Because when they can actually break through and speak to a particular type of client that they're trying to push towards, and you've actually understood in step 1 of the strategy call process, that's going to make it a whole lot easier for you to actually target their ICP, their ideal client profile. Now, number 3 of the strategy call process is to create a unique content angle. We want to make sure that every single one of their pieces of content stands out. They've got different visual branding. They've actually got an angle that is separate from every single one of their competitors. And so that's why it's super important to, once again, have extreme clarity on who they're trying to target when they fill out the intake form. Because if you don't know who they're trying to target, if you don't know their competitors, what they've done in the past, you can't create any sort of unique content angle. And so how are they going to look different from every single one of their competitors? Ideally, then they're not going to be able to. And so the content will never work. Their content will never get them clients, which is going to be very difficult. It's the same thing for you. When you're running this system for your own business, you need to understand the unique content angles that you need to go down. Tell me who's talking about the 90-day content system. Absolutely no one. And that's why it works. Because we have a system that is different from the market that works for us. And it works for every single one of our clients. And so that's why we teach them this 90-day content system. Now, once we're at step 4, we've got the content angle in place. Their Instagram profile is absolutely dialed in. They've got a CTA in their bio. Everything's locked in. They've got a link in their description as well, link in their bio. This is super important because they can already start generating leads without a single piece of content being posted. We've done this for some of our clients. Some of our clients at our agency, all we've done is pivoted their bio and chucked a CTA in there saying DM me keyword to take the further action, whatever it was. They started getting leads and they started getting DMs from their bio change. We didn't even post a piece of content for them. And so that simple shift alone can start bringing in new leads today. That's all we have to do. And so once we're at step 4, we need to follow the client roadmap. They need to have some sort of repeatable system that they can follow and work towards in their own time. Because at the same point, you don't want to have to be spoon feeding your client. If there is a process that they can follow and they can do it themselves, that means once again that you are just creating a way more repeatable business and it doesn't require as much work from your end. Because coming back to this, there is 2 types of systems, a done with you and a done for you system. If you're running a done with you system, you can tell the client to optimize their Instagram profile and you can just give them the videos, the SOPs, standard operating procedures, basically the document that you can send them in order to take the certain necessary steps to achieve a certain outcome. So for example, there will be a document breaking down how to optimize your Instagram profile, and your client would actually do that themselves. And so those are the actual systems that you can give your clients if you're running more of a done with you business. If it's done for you, you can just take over the whole thing and do it all yourself. But especially when you can do this, it opens up so many more opportunities. So having a client roadmap that the client can follow, so they know what's next. You don't need to tell them, okay, yep, so next step, we're doing this, we're doing that. No, John, look, all we're doing is just keep working your way through the roadmap. It's super simple, and honestly, like, it is the most simple process that you can follow for your business. There will be no stress when it actually comes to knowing exactly how we get to the outcome. Because all they need to do is just keep working their way through down the roadmap. Okay, that's the strategy out of the way. Honestly, a lot of clients that we work with can work through this a whole lot quicker, but it really just depends on the speed the client likes to work at. So say the client's working really quick, they've even done this in half a week. That's great. So what you actually can do with your client, once again, especially if you're running more of a done with you system, is you can have your weekly coaching / check-in calls. Like you want to make sure your client's up to date, they know what's going on. So you just give them the feedback. They optimize the Instagram profile, you hop on a call with them in the strategy call week and say, you know what, I think I actually like the angle and the messaging of this a little bit more. What do you think about that? Oh yeah, I actually like that. I think that would resonate a lot with my ideal client. Okay, perfect, let's run with that. Bang. You just want to understand that they know their market better than you do at the end of the day. So if they know that something will stand out or certain messaging will work because they are in that industry. It's the same with you. You want to understand that you are in the industry of content. So you understand what works there. They're going to be in a completely different space. So you want to make sure whatever's working in their industry, that messaging, their language, the tone that they use, you can then implement that and make sure that it is absolutely pushing through the market with their branding. That's how you want them to feel.
I'm going to cut myself off real quick. I'm actually meeting some clients out in the country, but I wanted to add this in because if you guys want the content systems playbook, I basically break down everything that I went through in this video, but in a whole lot more detail. So if you think there's a lot of value that you can take away just from this YouTube video, make sure to go check out the playbook because there's a ton more that you guys can actually implement and a lot more tangibles that you will be able to put straight into your business today. So go check it out. And with all that being said, enjoy the rest of the video.
Now, number 2, the organic content. This is when we actually start creating the content. Week 1 is all just about getting the systems and the fundamentals in place, but week 2 is about creating the content. So what's this look like? Well, we need to establish 3 types of content formats because especially when they're posting consistently or they may have not done this before in the past, it gets a little bit overwhelming. Content formats, I don't know what's going on. How do I create content? It's a lot. It is a lot. So we want to make sure there is 3 content formats established. I'm not going to go deep into how to create content that actually goes well and gets a lot of clients because at the end of the day, this is not what this video is about. This is all just about understanding the system. So establish 3 content formats, create your 3 pin posts, and then we want to make sure they can post anywhere from 12 to 20 organic reels in this period because we just want to make sure there is consistency and they're getting the reps in. So it should look something like this. We want to make targeted Instagram content. So for example, they're posting 5 times a week. Honestly, you don't even need to do this. This could even be a month, for example. But just as long as they're getting some content out, especially if they're doing it themselves, the volume can be a lot higher. So let's just keep it simple. They're posting 5 times a week and we see one outlier here. Second week, there is another outlier. Third week, there's another outlier. So each week they're seeing some sort of outlier piece of content that has either more saves, more likes, or more shares. And so each piece of content needs to speak to pain points of your ICP every day. So especially in your own content, making sure that you're actually speaking directly to your ICP or even having it a slight bit broader. But as long as you're speaking to the correct people who you're trying to target, the message will break through. Once again, this video is not about content, but I just want to share with you the system. So take 3 to 5 organic reels that perform well and then throw them into a campaign. That's when we get to the ad side of things. I will touch on that in a sec. Don't feel overwhelmed. It's only ads. It's only Ads Manager. It's not the most complex thing in the world. It's just a dashboard. It's chill. Don't worry about it. Okay. Firstly, one thing that I want you to understand though, before we keep making our way through this, is I don't want you sharing your edits and your camera gear anymore. Like forget the whole concept of just sharing cool content because at the end of the day, it is not going to get you clients. Like posting reels of anything that's cinematic, anything that looks flashy, talking about camera gear, it's just a crock of horse shit. You don't need to post it. We want to make content that interests your ideal client. Wouldn't have thought of that before. I wouldn't have thought about trying to actually target my content. I wouldn't have thought about targeting my clients in my content. Who would have thought of that idea? Well, that's actually how you get clients, ladies and gentlemen. You post content that speaks and breaks down your pain points of your ideal clients, breaks down the objections that they have coming up in sales calls. All of these things that they will feel heard. And when they feel heard, they feel spoken to and they feel like you understand their problem better than they understand it themselves. And when that happens, the deal becomes a whole lot easier to come across. So we've created the reels. We've edited the content. Okay, all well and good. Now at this point, followers and likes will start flooding in from content. This is a good thing. You might have those outlier pieces of content. Ideally, you want organic content to be your base. So you are going to start to have some followers come in the door. Now we need to assist our clients, but also making sure that ourselves, running the system for our own business, we need to have some sort of setting framework, some appointment setting framework to assist with closing the deals. Because if there's no structure on how to actually leverage these clients when they come in, for example, you have a potential client, they follow you on Instagram, we need to have a predictable system to be able to have a conversation with them to go from a follower to a booked lead. Because right now they're in that sort of no man's land. They are a lead on Instagram, but if they just sit in your DMs all the time, they go nowhere, which means you're never going to get them converting into a paying client. So then they're pointless. They're just a friend in your DMs. I'll touch on that in a sec in terms of the setting framework. Number 3, we need to start building authority. So at the moment, they should be up to week 3. Like I said, some clients can work through this quicker rather than others. So it's going to vary depending client to client. Posting bottom of funnel content. Okay, this is super important because once we start posting all of these organic pieces of content, we need to start posting bottom of funnel content. Bottom of funnel builds the trust. If you consistently post organic pieces of content that speak to your ideal clients and then have that bottom of funnel content to come in underneath that, basically think of bottom of funnel as building insane levels of trust. So we've got an audience here who actually understands what we do, but they don't understand who we've helped in the past. They don't understand what sort of systems we've been able to implement for our clients. We haven't shared any client testimonials. All of that stuff is extremely important. Because if you don't actually share that, they start to think, okay, this guy understands what he's doing, but who's he actually tried to help? And so the same thing goes for your clients. If they've shared all this information about what they do, who they are, but they haven't shared proof, you're never going to get clients over the line to actually want to buy with you. So we need to make sure that we're sharing bottom of funnel content. And around this point, we're going to hit around 3 to 5 outlier posts. So I've posted bottom of funnel content. We've had those 3 to 5 outliers that have popped up in the organic reels. The way you identify these, like I said, more saves, more likes, and more shares. Super important because we need to really double down on those organic outliers. This has already been proven to work in the market. It doesn't need to attract millions and millions of views, but even if a piece of content gets 150 likes, 3,000 to 4,000 views, but you get 30 followers from it, and say 10 of them are ideal clients, at a close rate of around 30%, which is average, that's 3 to 4 clients. 3 to 4 clients on a high ticket deal like this can put anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 in your pocket. That sounds like a pretty good system to me. And so that's why it's super important to actually understand what is working and doubling down on it in not only your organic, but then putting some money behind it on the ad side of things. And so that's where ads come in. Now we're at week 4 here. Now, once again, depending on the system that you're running, your client can move through this a whole lot quicker if you're doing more of a done with you system. If your client's actually implementing all of this stuff themselves, whereas if you are doing this, it would take a little bit longer to break this stuff down with your client. You would have to go out and shoot, depending on where you're at. You may have someone else in your team that can go out. Ultimately, that would make a whole lot more sense because you filming just has absolutely zero leverage. And if you're editing at this stage, I'd honestly suggest, click off this video because we need to be making a lot more wiser decisions. If you are editing, you are working on the lowest leverage task that you can possibly work on in your business. And at the end of the day, you need to escape that as quick as possible. Because to become a business owner, you need to build leverage. And leverage does not come in filming or editing content for your clients. Now, number 4, we're up to the ad side of things. Now, before I get into ads real quick, I just want to touch on if the organic is performing really well and you do have a system that is consistently bringing in clients through your organic pieces of content, and you found a message that works and an angle that works with your clients or yourself, because ultimately this system works for yourself and also your clients. But if you found an angle that works, you need to double down on that like there is no tomorrow. Doubling down on those pieces of content and just saying the exact same point in a slightly different way, but saying that 1,000 times over. Because when you found a message that works, that resonates with your audience and that has brought in clients. So that's why it's super important to understand exactly what is working. Because when you actually have that system, you can tweak your message slightly and you can predictably still put that same message across slightly different way, and you know that it will get views. You know that it will bring in some followers. And that has worked with me time and time again. I mentioned the content system. I break down what a content system looks like, and therefore that actually attracts a lot of my ideal clients. And it's maybe what attracted you to watching this video right now. That's why we're here. And that's why I'm breaking this system down for you, so you can actually understand exactly how to do this for yourself. All right, we're up to ad testing. We've got some organic pieces of content that have worked. Okay, yes, this is working, but to actually scale to that next level, how do we do that? Putting money behind the content that's already worked. Ad testing. So with your client, you'd set up the Meta ad account. You may even have a Loom video breakdown on how to actually set this up. Then you want to post and launch the ads for the client. I'll show you exactly how to do that in just a second. And at this point, you should be generating 5 to 10 clients from content and ads. So at this point, ads are testing, increasing the lead volume, plus a lot more inbound conversations through these ads. And then once again, you want to make sure there's a setting framework to assist with closing deals. So not only a setting framework to message your clients that are coming in, but also if you are helping your clients implement a content system for their business and they're getting a shit ton of leads through the content that you've been able to help them implement, they need some sort of system to actually close the clients. Because yes, it's all well and good to get leads through. And yes, they will. I know they will be happy. I know they will be happy if they get leads. But if they're not closing them, it doesn't matter how many leads you're getting them. It doesn't matter how many ads you're running for their business and they're getting a shit ton of people in the door. If you don't help them get actual paying clients, they're still not going to pay you over and over. They're not going to pay you long term because you still haven't given them the result that they want. You've only solved a small part of the problem, which isn't good. So you want to make sure you have some sort of setting framework that they can follow. And I'll briefly show you what that looks like in a sec. Now, like I said, you don't have to do ads. You don't have to do ads because if you have a content system that is working and it is repeatedly working over and over, that's good. Keep running with that. I'd honestly be happy for you to do that because you know that messaging is working. I'd double down. But when you want to actually scale up to the next level, that's when you want to start putting some money behind it. So what's that look like? It looks something like this. We want to run those outliers that we spoke about in the previous steps as an ad. So we've got 5 organic reels that have performed well. What do we actually do with those? I want you to put all of those 5 winners into one ad campaign. Now, at this stage, Meta's going to tell you what the true winners actually are. So let's say we have 5, and out of those 5 pieces of content that actually perform well and were the outliers, we have 2 that were the actual ad winners. That message resonated the most with business owners right now. Ad 1 and ad 5. So then these ones were generating a profit from your ads. And that's super important to understand because Meta is so good now at understanding what works well. And Meta will just allocate ad spend to ad 1 and ad 5. And really ad 2, 3, and 4 will get, like say for example, we had $50 here. Ad 1 and ad 5 would get 25. These ones would get like cents. They would get like a couple dollars. I know that's a little bit over $50, but you get the point. And so ad 1 and ad 5 will get majority of the spend and it'll just double down on that, which is insane. It's actually really cool because now we know what's performing and we can even test that with the ad market. So when we go back to the organic content side, we can still know that these pieces of content performed even better on the ads. So let's just keep running these as organic pieces of content. That is where the money lies. And that's where a lot of people are actually missing out on a whole lot of opportunities because they don't know how to implement this system. And the system is repeatable. This system is super, super repeatable. We know that these organic pieces of content perform well. We also know that it has been run as an organic piece of content, so it doesn't fully look like an ad. And more people are saying, don't create ads that look like ads. So now we're actually working on an angle that is working in the organic market, and we're running it as an ad that is actually doubling down on that organic piece of content. That is way more powerful than sitting there and just trying to create a direct response ad. Direct response just meaning completely selling your service, speaking directly to the person you want to sell to, for example, your ideal client, and you just sit there and say, hello, ideal client, we do this, we've got your solution, work with us. Like that is direct response. Pretty much in a nutshell, there's a lot more detail to it. But these are organic pieces of content. They're completely different. They're structured in a different way. And that's why I love this system. Now, that is more on the ad side of things. We're doubling down, we're putting money where our mouth is, and we're actually putting money behind what's already working. Therefore, not actually burning money on ads, which is super important to understand as well. We don't want to burn money on ads without testing what the market actually wants. But when we've tested what the market wants with the organic side of things, we're not having to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars. We can put $30 a day behind these pieces of content, and I can guarantee you will start conversations. Like, that will happen. Without a doubt. You will get leads from that. So if you want leads today, that's the exact system I'd follow. Now, step number 5. The system's rolling now. We know what to do. We just need to have some sort of repeatable process. So there's 2 things we can do now. We can keep closing the deals, and we keep working with the client for the next 5 to 12 weeks. And there is a few things we can do. We can go and upsell them. But before we do that, there's a few more systems that you can actually implement. Now, we have the DM settings system. We need to install that with our clients. We need to give them that system. We need to make sure that we're logging the leads. Now remember, this is not just for you. This is not just for your clients, but also for you as well. Super important to remember, because when we have a system that we can implement, a setting system that we can give to our clients, it's going to help them a whole lot more. And that is going to be super beneficial for your clients. So making sure they have some sort of DM setting system, making sure that we are logging the leads for yourself, for your clients, making sure that we're actually running daily story sequences, because story sequences build so much trust with an ideal client watching your content. Yes, they see the content. Yes, they may see the ads pop up. But when they see that story sequence, that just adds to the proof. And this is the whole modern profile funnel working in action. This is exactly what you need to do. Now, we also need to make sure that we can also help them with some nurturing content. That will help a lot. And then we want to make sure that we're doubling down on the organic outliers during these 5 to 12 weeks. Once again, I ran over that. So, daily story sequences, like I said, I'm not going to go into depth with this, but when we can post stories consistently that are nurturing clients, hard selling even, like 2 to 3 times, I'd say, in a month would be the absolute max. We can utilize story sequences to our advantage, build a lot more trust over there as well. Because once again, the more trust that we can build with our clients, the better. The way I look at story sequences is that when you can put up 1 story sequence a day, it is building 1% trust with your ideal clients. So if they're following you and they see your story sequence over the next 100 days, realistically with that math, they should be 100% sold. Because each day you've built that trust. They've seen a piece of content, they've seen a story. And the more you post, the more trust that gets built, therefore the sale becomes a whole lot easier. And that is the profile funnel working in action. Post nurturing content. Some of these pieces of content look like unlisted YouTube videos. You can help your clients run this. Loom recordings. This is actually really beneficial for yourself as well. When you have a Loom recording that you can send to a prospect in that nurturing phase, in the phase of them going from a booked call, in the phase going from them booking in a call to the book call. That phase right there is when you want to nurture the client. And that is actually like a super important time to double down. Because especially when they are almost bought in, they're getting to the phase of that sales call. They need to just have that little bit more trust. I mean, they have already bought, so they trust what you do. But when you can just keep nurturing them in that phase, give them some more resources, give them that little bit more, they don't expect it. And when you give someone something they don't expect, they get really fucking excited. And especially when their excitement is at an all-time high, guess what that means? It means they want to buy. It means they will buy. And then also a content freebie. All of these 3 resources help a lot in this phase. Now, the setting system, the story sequences, and the post-nurturing content. Now, at this point in time, you should have got a ton of clients for your client, but also you should be able to, from the system, bring in a ton of clients for yourself, because this is the content system working in action, the 90-day content system. Now, you've got a few options here. You've got upsell / ascension path, because yes, a 90-day system is good, but what happens after the 90 days, Jack? What do we actually do? We can just let that client go and we can just try and find more clients. But once again, we want to build a scalable business and we want to extend the LTV, lifetime value of a client. Lifetime value meaning that we want to make as much money as possible from one client. Because the higher that LTV is, it actually means that we're going to make a whole lot more and we can spend more on acquiring a client. Because when we know that the LTV is 20 or even 30 grand from a client, we'd be willing to spend 1, 2, 3 grand on a client if we know we're going to make 30. So it makes a whole lot more sense. So when people are scared to spend $100 a day on ads, just think about the LTV of your clients and then how much you can actually spend, how much you're willing to spend to make that 30K. If you know that's your LTV, you need to make sure you calculate that yourself. So we have some sort of ascension path now because, for example, they've come in on the front end, they've paid for our 90-day system. How can we actually keep that path going? Well, there's a few things we can do. We can renew the content program for another 6, 12, 18 months, but they're going to face a few more issues. And the only reason why they're going to face more issues is because we've helped them achieve their desired outcome, because their outcome was to get more clients through content. So how do we move them to those next phases? Well, look, John, I keep using the example, John. John, look, you're going to face a lot more issues now because we've been able to get you clients, but we need to keep building more trust on the back end. What is super crucial to start doing is to start running a YouTube content system. Because yes, we've been able to help you with the short form. But when we have a YouTube content system that can actually help you build a lot more trust, and we can actually start implementing way more content consumable hours for your prospects, that's going to help a lot. And so especially even for yourself, like implementing YouTube content is so important because, like I've said this a million times, but when someone consumes 7 hours of your content, they are way closer to buying from you, and that is actually the trust you need, those amount of hours, that is the trust needed to be built in order for them to go from a cold, hard prospect to a warm lead, to a warm, hot fucking lead. In that 7 hours, that's when the deal gets across the line. And so that's why YouTube is so important, because a 30-minute YouTube video is going to stack up those hours way quicker than a 30-second reel. It's not going to do a lot. So, John, we need to start building the social stack. We need to start implementing YouTube content. Now, at this point, there is way more ascension paths. We can take them through the sales process. We can help them hire appointment setters if we have all these resources. We can help them with the back-end the back-end setup, or even a long-term marketing play, helping them run more direct response ads, because at that point, they should be ultimately making a lot more with the content. Even running some retargeting ads, email sequences, all that sort of stuff. All these sort of things that you need to be aware of as a marketer. But in the meantime, this system is all you need to predictably bring in clients. That is all you need. The 5-step system to consistently bring in clients every single week. And honestly, this system alone has helped us make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this is the exact system that you need to implement to be a content systems consultant. You're not a videographer. You're not all this bullshit. You are helping a business scale through content by being a consultant. You understand content better than 90% of people out there. You do. I can promise you do. And it's just about now installing this system and actually helping your clients go through this process. Whether that's through a done with you system or a done for you system, you understand how to put this together. And realistically, it shouldn't matter where your clients are. What matters is that you understand how to get them more clients through content. When you can understand that, when you can implement that for your clients, you yourself will make a lot of money. Because you actually helping your clients get more clients is a byproduct of you making more money. Same thing with you though. When you can implement this system, you are proof in the pudding that you can do it for your clients, and you will build a whole lot more trust in yourself that you can do it, and therefore you will feel so much more comfortable presenting it to your client. There's a ton of value you can pull from this, I know. And when implemented correctly, you can make a whole lot more money from this. So do with it what you will, but I'm keen to see you guys win and start implementing these systems, because this has changed my life, it's changed my client's life, and it can change your life. So make the most of it.